nice chance to do that. So that's about half of that. Okay. So you may be asking, well, what's the difference? Other than what I already told you the difference is. It's got to be content, right? Who here thinks it's content? Raise your hands. Well, it turns out you're wrong. See, radio plays and audio dramas can both be about anything you want. In fact, that audio drama you just heard was heavily influenced by anime. I thought, well, I can do that. But I don't know how to draw. I can't animate. So I'll do it with audio. Okay, so if that's not the difference, it's got to be hard work, right? Way more work goes into radio plays and audio dramas, right? Because they're way longer, right? Raise your hand if you think that's true. Nobody, good, because that's wrong too. Truth is, I spent 18 hours straight working on that radio play. Once I already had all the lines, after everything was already written, everything was turned into me. Mixing that took me 18 hours straight. That means I didn't stop. I had someone bring me food. True story. I also didn't use the bathroom. That's not a good idea. Okay, so none of those are the difference. Then clearly it's good acting, right? That guy looks like he's doing a horrible job, though. Actually, that's wrong, too. Because I think you can have good and bad acting in both of them. Just the same as in any production, you know? So if we were to take this seriously, then here are the differences. Length. Now, the obvious difference is length. Radio plays, because they have chapters and episodes and yada, 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 they tend to go on for a much longer time. Kind of obvious, but I kind of have to say it. Audio dramas, because they're a one-shot experience, you don't have to be as heavily involved. You listen to it once and you've got all the information you need. For a radio play, you do kind of have to follow it. It's sort of like watching a TV show. If you come in late, you're going to be missing out on a lot. Which is why if you had no clue what was going on in those clips that I played earlier, that's exactly where you're supposed to be. Because all of those were like in the middle of the series. Okay? Another difference is audience involvement, kind of like what I said. Your audience can't get fully involved in an audio drama unless you give them all of the information very quickly. You also have to leave a lot of things open-ended. If you notice, I didn't take a whole lot of time to explain why the witches were chasing him. I didn't take a lot of time to go into, well, what did she just fire at him? It sounded like she launched a magical beam of justice or something. Is this mic still on? No, okay. And so with the radio play, you have a little bit more time to get into the backstory. So an audience can get a little bit more heavily involved in the lore of the story. Sort of like if you guys are fans of Dragon Age. There's a bunch of books that are addendums to the game, so things that you don't find in the game you can actually find in the books. There's just more information for people to get involved with. And one more difference is your amount of creative liberties, what you can do with the show. With an audio drama, it's really difficult to do a one-shot story of something that already exists. You can do it, but most of the time you'll find that they're a little bit more original, because it's really difficult to take somebody like, say, Spider-Man, and do one story about it. Because everyone's going to want more, because we all love Spider-Man, unless you hate Spider-Man, in which case I'm sorry. But the truth of it is, with a radio play, you have a lot more that you can work with. So you don't necessarily have to come up with your own fully original idea. You can come up with an idea of something that already exists and work with it. So, let's talk history. See, really, radio plays got their start a long, long time ago. Back in the 1920s. Alright, this is ridiculous. I'm putting it into this right now. Thank you. You guys didn't know I knew how to use the force, did you? I wasn't Captain Bulo for nothing. Alright, let's get back to hello. Thank you. Okay, in the beginning, there was light and dark. No, that's too far back. Let's go a little later than that. 1920s. Radio plays got their start in America. And it really started with people gathering around to do readings of plays over the radio. Because back then they didn't have TV. They didn't have the internet. All that they had to connect people from one side of the country to the other was the radio. So not everybody could get out to a theater and watch a play. And plays weren't going on all the time in the same place. So they thought, well, let's find a way to get it to the people in their own home. Now, the first of these was a piece called A Rural Line on Education. And this actually wasn't a play. This was the first original piece written for radio. It was specifically written to be read over radio. And in fact, got a lot of publicity. And over the course of like the next 20 years, everyone around the world decided they were going to get in on this, especially for Great Britain. The UK has a grand history of radio plays. They love them. Now, things got really famous when Orson Welles, that's him right there. Doesn't he look cute? Fantastic. Okay. I heard no guesses there. I guess I'll rescind that comment. But Orson Welles is a fairly famous radio actor, fairly famous actor, period. He performed a reading of War of the Worlds over the radio, and that show, the story was written by H.G. Wells, no relation. They spell their names differently. True story. But he did such a good job with it, and there was nobody advertised it ahead of time, that everyone thought the world was actually being invaded by Martians. People were running out of their house and going, "Oh my God, there's nothing." But he just said Chicago was destroyed. I'm in Chicago. What? He did a really good job with it, and that's when people really started taking notice. So, unfortunately, a little bit later, there was an invention that came along that really kind of doomed the radio. I actually have a newspaper clipping of the 1960s, back when they used to type newspapers like this. I'm going to read this to you in my best 1960s radio announcer voice. You ready? Or I could just let you read it. It's up to you guys. What do you think? Awesome. Great. I love it. Okay. As time went on, radio plays would soon find themselves competing head-to-head with television. Such a fight could only lead to the downfall of one of these two entertainment giants, and sadly, the one to fall was the radio. It's as they say. So that's the truth of it. But it wasn't all lost, because right after that, something amazing happened. Do you see that? I just changed my stuff. Okay. Something amazing happened. See, a little after the 1960s, things were just downhill. And pretty much stayed that way, even, for the next couple of decades to the 80s, when really everyone you know what? Nobody's listening to these, they're all watching TV. We're spending all this money to produce these, and nobody's watching them. So America kind of said, all right, enough is enough with these radio plays. It's time to move on to bigger, better things. Television is the way to go. Radio is out the door. Television is in the door, in people's homes. Plug them in, watch them, and we will steal your soul. Now, the UK kind of continued with their radio plays, not as big as they used to be, but thanks to BBC Radio, which is the British Broadcasting Company, they had a unionized, nationwide effort to keep radio plays alive. They realized that they were kind of an important part of Britain's history. So they kind of stayed alive, and there's still some shows that are long-running radio plays. I know there's one currently running that's been running for 20 years in England. So, that was magical. I don't know how I did that. Should do that again. And then everyone was like, well, okay, we don't need radio plays. But then an invention came along that saved the day. This invention was known as... Wow, guys.
The internet.
Okay, thank you. Guess I'm putting you guys to sleep. I've got to be more excited. Brand new, right? Okay. The internet. Thankfully, the internet allowed people to connect from anywhere in the world again. But this time they didn't need a radio. This time they just needed the internet and a computer. So I guess you needed more than just a radio. But the thing that made this a more important aspect of the radio play, genre, was that there was more connectivity between the audience and the people creating them. With the internet available, people could get on forums, they could talk about it, people could share their comments directly with the director through email. People could find, websites that were completely designed for one particular production and could contact the creator of the show. Another thing that helped is that it brought together producers, directors, and actors from all over the world. You could be anywhere you wanted to be and still be involved. And in fact, there were a lot of actors who do these things now online who've never met. One of my good friends online, we actually were in Genesis Avalon together back when that started about 4 years ago. Maybe actually, I think 2006, so maybe 5 years ago. Genesis Avalon started. And we both been in the show but had never met. And I got really big on Facebook, and we added each other as Facebook friends. But I still hadn't met her. I just met her in December. Just met her for the first time. So it's exciting to be involved in a process with people that you may not necessarily ever see, but then when you do, you have so much that you can talk about. You've got this whole connection going on. And it's still, it's not as big, you can tell by the room size, it's not as big as it used to be. If this were the 1920s and I was leading a convention on Radioplays, everyone would be here. Everyone. Could I say so? But, they're rising slowly in popularity. Most of my work has been done in Radioplays and Audiodramas. And it's fed my resume. And my resume was hungry. Alright, so enough of this history stuff. Let's talk about those of you who want to be voice actors. Anybody in here want to be a voice actor? Couple people. 3, 4, 5, 7, 12 and a half. Start with Radioplays. Okay, I'm going to tell you why. Yes, we want to know why. Neo, tell us. Practice, practice, and more practice. One of the biggest things that's important to an actor is that you have practice. Because if you're just saying, I'm an actor, and you sit on your couch all the time, you never get the opportunity to actually get up and involve yourself. And it might be difficult for people who live in, let's say, Kansas, or Kentucky, or the North Pole, to really find like a theater or something where they can act. And the major voice acting capitals are Dallas, Texas, Los Angeles, California, and New York City. If you're not in one of those 3 places, it's really difficult to find work as a voice actor. So what you need to do is keep yourself involved. And Radioplays is a great way to do that. You can never run out of practice opportunities. What else? Radioplays are a great way to build your resume. Like, oh my God, it's at the time already. Like I said, most of my resume is filled with Radioplays and Audiodramas. It's wonderful too, because people will say, well, what is that? I've never heard of that. That sounds cool. And I say, well, look it up on the internet. Yes. And they look and they're like, wow, this is really cool. Because there's a lot of people who still don't know that this is going on. And of course, the ever-important exposure. Not that kind of exposure. That's really bad. Don't ever do that. No, this is going to get you heard. Because there are a lot of casting directors and producers out there who are looking for new voice talent, but can't find it. They're tired of hearing the same voices over and over again. If you're in Radioplays, they could stumble across it online one day. They could not even be working. They could just be like, I'm going to go on the internet and play on miniclips.com forever. And then they find a link that says, oh, buy this product. And they follow that link and it turns out it takes them to a forum. And they're like, well, I can't buy anything here. But then they think, oh, look around. This looks interesting, right? So they click on something. Radioplay. What is that? I'm going to click. Starring. And the next thing you know, is very famous. It can happen. It has happened. Not to me. I'm not famous. Yet. Thank you. My head is pointed up. So, where can I find these Radioplay opportunities? Well, if you were in my last panel, I talked about a place called Voice Acting Alliance. We'll get to that in a minute. But earlier I mentioned Pendant Productions. You can actually go to pendantaudio.com. They put up casting calls all the time. They have right now, I think we're at 24 running shows. That, new roles are coming up all the time. Even if it's a small role, it could be Soldier B. He's not even important enough to be Soldier A. And that guy had a song written about it. Soldier B gets nothing. But you know what? It's a line, and it's something you can put on your resume. And the more entries you have on your resume, the better. Come on in, guys. Don't be shy.
Thank you.
Nice bow tie.
Thank you.
Bow ties are cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I said, you can go to the voiceactingalliance.com. The Voice Acting Alliance is a wonderful forum that not only has opportunities for radio plays and audio dramas, but also has opportunities for other voice acting ventures such as original animation, commercials, things like that. I've had the pleasure of being involved in a couple of original projects that were done as gifts for a significant other on an anniversary. That makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. Honestly, this last one I did a parody of the opening monologue from Romeo and Juliet. And it was so much fun. So you can always check that out. And a very similar site, voiceactingclub.proboards.com. If you just search for Voice Acting Club, you can find it. They're very similar to the Voice Acting Alliance. They tend to have a lot more original animation than Radioplays, but you can still find stuff on there. Now, there's one I want to tell you about. If you guys are here and you're interested in voice acting, I hope you have a pen and something to write on. Write this down because this is actually a really good place. Right now, BrokenSea.com is looking for new actors. They have 72 actor positions they need to fill in the next week. I said there are 72 voice acting positions that need to be filled in the next week. Now, it doesn't pay. A lot of these projects don't pay. But if you're trying to get to a point where you can get paid, you got to start somewhere. This is a great way to do it. Like I said, 72 voice acting. You guys are not writing this down. Somebody should be writing.
I'm saving it as
well, there you go. Okay, I've done my job. Now, who here? First of all, I should have put a slide about this. I didn't think about it. Who here has done or has been trying to get involved in voice acting so far? Do you guys have microphones?
Yeah.
What kind of microphone do you have?
Natural projection.
It's very difficult to record yourself and send it over the internet with natural projection. So I highly suggest you get a microphone.
All right.
And let me tell you, if you have to, you can use a headset. But let me also tell you, if you use a headset, chances are very... What? Go back. What happened? Oh, it's gone. I hope you wrote it down. You didn't get it?
No.
Let me see if I can go back.
You got it?
Okay, we went through all this already. Just hang on. Neil's going to do his thing, and then we'll talk. But if you're going to be getting involved, you really need to have a good microphone. Because if you have a headset, it's going to sound kind of... You're going to get a lot of background noise, you're going to get a lot of fuzz, which sounds like this. It doesn't sound like much, does it? But it is when you're recording, because your producer will get it back, and they'll listen to it, and they'll just hear, "Hi, my name is Mark, and I am auditioning for this role." Hi, and that's a problem. They want it to sound clean, they want it to sound professional, and they want it to sound good. So I'm going to suggest that you go out and find a good microphone. There are some microphones that are just USB microphones that just plug directly into your computer. You can usually find those for under $120. I know it's a lot of money, but if you're in this for life, like I am, you kind of have to spend it. And that's actually going to be the cheapest expense you ever have to pay. Because I just got done taking a 5-week course that cost me $504. $504. That was a course. I didn't even get anything for that. Except knowledge, which is very important. Do I need to spend more time on this? You guys got it? Let me know when you're done. I'll stand up here and do a dance. Anybody else still need this? You got it? Good? Okay, moving on. Me. Oh, you have another option. If you're having difficulty finding something online, you could always make one yourself. Like I did. Because I was like, well, I want to do a radio play that's kind of anime. And then I realized that's going to take a really long time. So then I said, I want to do an audio drama that's kind of anime. Like an OAV almost. So, speaking of do-it-yourself, it's your turn. I'm going to need 4 volunteers. We're going to read through that script that I was playing with my radio play, and we're going to record it. And I'm going to mix it, and I'm going to send it back to you so you can hear it. Assuming you want to give me your email address, because if you don't, I can't send it to you. So I need 4 volunteers. I need 2 guys and 2 girls. I was going to choose you guys. Kind of just kill everybody else's chance. Well, yes, volunteers, so raise your hands. All right. Actually, I lied. I can't count. I need 1 boy and 3 girls. Sorry. Unless there's a guy out there with an incredibly effeminate voice.
I'll try.
So I need a boy who can sound like he's 15 years old.
That's you! 15-year-old.
I actually like your voice. Do you want to come up?
Yeah.
Come up.
There you go, man. Yay.
You're going to be playing Elliot Sims. I'll give you a microphone in just 1 second. Oh no, you can stay down here. I'm going to come down too, because I'm going to direct you. Okay, so now I need 3 women. The first person I need is someone who can sound like a brat. Who's a girl. I'm confused. All the ladies are on the sides of the room. Are the couches just that much more comfortable? Does anybody want to be almost semi-famous? You ladies.
You can totally say
I'm gonna start choosing people.
Do it.
I can't sound like a brat.
Anybody at all. We'll be here all day. Just kidding, not all day. But really, anybody? Riku, do you want to be a brat? You want to be recorded? Run up. See how to pick people. I don't like picking people. It makes me feel like a bully. This is exciting, guys. Come on. Well, ladies, because the guys haven't. Sorry, guys. You're going to be playing Kara Winthorpe, okay? One of the evil witch sisters. Okay, now I need someone who can sound like her older sister. Okay, leave me alone for a second. Here's the trick. You're her older sister by 5 minutes. But you're both young women, so don't worry about sounding like a child. You're not a child. Alright, and I am saving this one for you. You. Come on up. You're going to be playing Aria, who we've heard a little bit about. Aria's a little tough, okay? I'm going to warn you right now. Aria starts off sounding like a little girl, typical anime little girl. And then halfway through the script, she's going to grow up. Okay? So you need to sound like a little girl and then sound like a big girl. Give me a second, I'm going to grab some microphones here. Ma'am, this is your microphone. Congratulations.
I mean, who's like...
1 second. Sorry.
You're going to hold the door.
You boys Hello.
Hello? Is this thing off?
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Peanut butter.
Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. 1 second.
Hello.
Everyone talk. Everyone talk.
Hello.
I refuse to talk.
Peanut butter.
I reserve my right to not speak.
The game.